Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Esther Taylor, and I am a leadership team member for the Tacoma Mockingbird Society chapter. So today we got a lot of great things coming your way. This is our final episode of the Mockingbird Society's speaker series, It Takes All of Us. Thank you for joining us this evening. Now, before we begin, I'd like to hand it over to Mockingbird's board president, Tasha West Baker, for the land acknowledgement.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. We're so excited to have you here. We would like to invite you to pause, be quiet, and reflect as we open with this acknowledgement. We would like to recognize that we are on the traditional land of the Coast Salish, Interior Salish, and Yakama Nation tribes. They took care of this land before it was colonized, and they continue to care for, honor, and defend their land. We honor with gratitude the land itself and all of the tribes of Washington State. We would also like to acknowledge the historic and systemic exploitation and oppression of Indigenous peoples, enslaved Africans, and other historically underinvested people, which has led to the disproportionality in the representation amongst those communities, among the youth that we serve and whose voices we seek to elevate. We ask that you keep this in mind as we work to transform these systems. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tasha, for that wonderful acknowledgement. Appreciate that a lot. And thank you once again to everybody joining our third and final episode of It Takes All of Us. I'm glad to be here with each and every one of you this evening. And my name is Esther Taylor. Once again, I'm a leadership team member for the Tacoma Mockingbird Society chapter. And I'm coming to you live from Walla Walla, Washington, where I am in my last year of college at Walla Walla University studying strategic communication. I will use my degree to innovate and make lasting change to the foster care system and the end youth homelessness. It is important to me, something I hold near and dear to my heart, to always create space, no matter what, for people to sit in their pain, to live their truth, and be with them in their pain and not tell them to get over it. And I will continually live that truth. And living your truth and speaking your truth as loudly as possible should never be disregarded and generalized. I'm here to elevate the voices of young people with lived experience because we know firsthand what needs to change. Now, for those joining us for the first time, the Mockingbird Society's mission is to transform foster care and end youth homelessness. We accomplish this by working in partnership with young people like myself who have experienced foster care or homelessness. We work to change the system by changing the policies, perceptions, and practices that stand in between any young person and a safe, stable, and supportive home. I'm proud to say that in the last 20 years, we have passed over 56 major policy reforms and counting. But before we dive into that, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors for their support. This speaker series would not have been possible without their generosity. And a special thank you to our champion sponsor, the Schultz Family Foundation. Thanks to their support, all gifts made tonight of $250 or more will be matched dollar for dollar. Your $250 becomes $500. Your $1,000 donation becomes $2,000, and so on until the matching pool is exhausted. And for every $1 invested in Mockingbird, nearly $6 is returned in state investment to support young people and families. So tonight, you have the chance to double your impact. And last, but definitely not least, I want to thank all of you for watching at home, for being here with us tonight. The work to transform foster care and end youth homelessness truly takes all of us. And we're so glad to have you join us in this work. Now, in the last episode, we discussed Mockingbird family and the importance of community-based foster care. We learned that by bringing families together, young people and foster parents receive the support and resources they need to succeed. Now, tonight, we'll be focusing on the core aspect of Mockingbird's work, our youth programs. Mockingbird's youth programs bring together young people with lived experience from across Washington state to develop policy solutions to transform our state systems of care. Our approach focuses on youth development and systems reform. So Mockingbird participants develop leadership and self-advocacy skills while affecting positive change for the generations of young people that will come after them. Now, elevating the voices of young people is at the center of our work, because young people who have experienced the system know exactly what needs to change. So tonight, I'm so excited to have two of my peers and longtime Mockingbird advocates, Ryan Tobiasen and Dorian Brockovich, joining us. Ryan has been with Mockingbird since she was 13 years old, first as a Spokane chapter member and now as the newly appointed regional engagement coordinator for her team. Ryan is currently working towards her bachelor's degree in business management. She plans to use her degree to launch her own nonprofit, serving single mothers and their children in the Spokane area. Dorian Brockovich is the Yakima chapter leader and has been with Mockingbird for the past 6 years. In that time, Dorian worked on and advocated for two major pieces of legislation: extended foster care and legal representation, both of which were successful. Dorian is dedicated to transforming the system so the young people that come after have the support they need to succeed. I am so excited to share their work with all of you. So let's see what they have to say.
How does it feel to be in the Mockingbird family? Like, how does it feel for you? Like, because for me, it feels great, like it's home.
I can definitely agree with that. Like, I can walk into the main office and there are people there that know me by name, even though I haven't been there in like a year or two. Like, people recognize me, and that is an incredible feeling. I definitely feel like I'm accepted.
That also like really showed me that it was more of a family like environment. It wasn't just something that people went to, and it wasn't all like super professional. Like, yeah, when we're presenting to legislators maybe, but when we're all together, like there's a place that we belong.
Definitely.
Because of the community that is within Mockingbird, I do feel like it is great to keep coming back. And not only is there that family there, we also are doing like such a great thing. Like, we're advocating for new policy changes for new generations. Like, it's crazy.
Absolutely.
And that brings up a great point about Youth Advocacy Day. I remember my very first Youth Advocacy Day.
Everyone remembers their first.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. We were in the Capitol building and like those huge steps. I had never seen a place like so big and like made out like entirely concrete and marble.
I know that. The Capitol building just being made out of marble was insane. There's pictures on the wall of the quarry that it came out of, and I'm like, places like that exist?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember we went up and we were going to the offices, and I saw everybody, like not a single person did not look like they were like at their best. Like, no, I never saw like a sweatpant sight. And I was in some really like beat up tennis shoes and like this big giant winter coat because it was freezing and I didn't expect it to be.
It's February.
I thought that was the start of spring at that age. I didn't know. I went up there and I don't remember who I talked to. Obviously, this was years ago. And I remember them being so welcoming and so excited. They were like, oh my goodness, Mockingbird's here. And we sat at this big table, like it's like the one that you'd see at like the Oval Office on TV. And we put up our slideshow and we talked about our topic. I believe that was Ideas with Ease. As we were presenting this legislator, he had the biggest smile. It was so fantastic. And he really heard what I had to say as a chapter member, and somebody that important even giving me the time of day was something that I'd never experienced before.
legislators, they love when Mockingbird comes to visit. They love hearing stories from not only youth, but from their constituents. Sure, you can hear what could be going wrong in your district and what you can fix from like your aides or from other colleagues, but to hear it directly from the mouths of the youth, that is invaluable in someone in their position. Not only in helping them make a decision, but helping them enforce their decision. When they're up there talking about the bill, they can bring up, these youth told me all of these things, and I think this is why we should go forward with this. Would you like to tell me a little bit about IDs with Ease?
IDs with Ease was actually like something that was a need because of the fact that getting your identification card and your driver's license, it's so expensive, and it's like literally impossible to like get a hold of if you do not have somebody to vouch for you and vouch for your identity, especially if you don't have your social security number or maybe your birth certificate. Originally, while talking with fellow chapter members, it was difficult hearing about how they were struggling to find a job or maybe get into different housing because they couldn't access proper identification. After tons of research, we found that there was not a way to make it easier and more accessible to youth. We as a chapter then decided to push forward with the topic IDs with Ease, and eventually we passed the law in which it makes it easier for youth to acquire their identification.
Wow, that's definitely a journey. You're right, before it was extremely difficult to actually get an identification card. The process for us getting the House Bill 1219 to actually pass was difficult in a similar manner. At the beginning of the advocacy cycle, we were tasked with revisiting old topics to see if we could expand upon them. So we decided, let's do legal rep again. It was incredibly motivating to have a topic that, has given us not necessarily problems, but difficulties in the past getting recognized. And not only that, but having so many people behind us actually wanting this to go through, it really just helped us kind of get through it. Going into getting this bill finally passed over, we acknowledged that, this bill had been worked on for about 15 years. Like, this was not something, we'll just put it on the back burner for now. This is something that countless people have tried to work on and just kept running into roadblocks with. But to finally be the chapter that got this passed, to bring it over the finish line, so to speak, was just, I can't quite describe it.
Congratulations, that's actually really cool.
Thank you.
I was talking to a professor within a college, and they told me a lot of really great things about how the foster system and the juvenile court system just kind of came to be. What we would call like a guardian ad litem today was actually somebody who would represent youth in the courts back then. And they would actually take in youth who didn't have like parents to represent them or be there with them, and they take in youth and they'd stay at their house. Like, people would take in kids that didn't have parents and teach them how to do things. And then they were like, oh, this is a great thing. This is working. We should implement a system that is broken. And it was created by a bunch of elderly white men who didn't experience what these youth are experiencing. And I guess that's why it's so important to have youth voice, because we started with a broken system. If youth voice was implemented in the beginning, the system would not be as broken as it is now.
That's a wonderful point. And a lot of people are so willing just to write off youth voice because, they're kids, what do they know? But to be directly impacted by a system, you yourself know what needs to be changed. So why wouldn't we take that from the youth, you know? Which is why, like you said, youth voice is so important. So for example, like I mentioned earlier, House Bill 1219 took about 15 years to pass. And the idea came from youth that were in the chapters, and they said, hey, this is something that needs to be fixed. And we tried and tried, and yeah, we eventually got a study out of it, but that was just to prove what we already knew 15 years ago.
Yep, and that's exactly why youth need to be understood. Like, people need to sit back, listen, and learn from the youth.
Youth in foster care have more rights now than they did 20 years ago, and I feel that that's directly impacted by Mockingbird. One such, for example, is extended foster care, something that I have directly benefited from. It used to be when you turned 18, you were just kind of out onto the street, you know? Like, sorry, have a nice life. But with this program in place, there was actually a safety net, like that you have a basic income that you can fall back on if you have trouble finding a job. I had access to various services, one such, independent living skills, an invaluable service, because they'll teach you things that, you know, a parent should teach you. Like how to get a job, you know, like interviews, resumes, all of that. Teach you how to get your driver's license, how to open a bank account, you know, all these things that you should be taught that you might not be taught in foster care.
It's a good thing that independent living skills is actually available to youth after they turn 18 as well, specifically because of the fact that when you're not in foster care, for the most part, you do have your parents to fall back on. When you are in foster care and you turn 18 and then you age out of the system, you don't have that fallback. You don't have that support. And extended foster care kind of does that. Another great thing about extended foster care is that makes it to where I can qualify for the educational training voucher. And they actually just recently got a lot of funding. And so I am actually going to be graduating college with virtually no debt. And I went out of state. Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
With my bachelor's.
Wow, that's incredible.
And that kind of like also brings it back, because if Mockingbird did not complete the work that they did generations before me, my generation now would not be able to succeed.
Well, absolutely. Because, I mean, without Mockingbird, the extended foster care wouldn't be where it's at today. My first youth advocacy day, that was Yakima chapter's topic. And I got to speak to a lawmaker. I am so glad that I actually got to go and speak with them about this, because that little bit of advocacy right there is one of the main reasons I keep coming back, because it actually changed something. And it doesn't, like, yes, it affected me, but it also affects countless people after me. It's just a nice feeling.
Exactly, like that's a great point. If we don't set our youth up for success within the future generations, all we're gonna see is failure. All these youth are going to see and know is failure, think that they can't make it in life. And what I mean by failure is it's not the young people who are failing. It is the system who is failing the young people. Systems change is so important, specifically because youth in foster care and or experiencing homelessness have a lot of barriers. If we don't change the system now, they're going to continue to have those barriers, and they're not going to be able to live successful, fulfilling, and healthy lifestyles. And that's why Mockingbird is so important, because if we're not advocating for that specific stuff within the system, it's not going to change. It's going to continue to be difficult. While you were blessed, many others aren't.
Exactly. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. That's why I do the work that I do. I keep coming back because of the fact I have seen what we do in action, and I know that what we're doing actually is changing things. I may not directly benefit from everything that we change, but I'm not doing this for me.
Exactly, and that's why it's so important for not only us to be doing this work, but the public to also like support our work, because that could be their grandbaby, that could be their cousin, that could be their brother or sister or just their auntie. That's family, and if we don't better the system and set our youth up for success, nobody will.
Wow, that was incredibly powerful. That gave me goosebumps. That's a wonderful point. And an example of that community support that I felt was, especially during the passing of 1219, we had so many people behind us. Like, it was like once we got our feet on the ground, there was no stopping us.
Exactly. Like, the community is so important, because you wouldn't have had that passed if the community wasn't there to support you.
If I could tell our supporters anything, all I'd really want to tell them is thank you for all the support that they've given us, because we can't do this alone. The support that we get is absolutely instrumental in the policies that we've put forth.
Honestly, youth deserve the chance to learn how to speak up for themselves. Youth deserve the chance to be able to be set up for success. The system doesn't need to be failing youth anymore.
Wonderful. I don't know what else to say to that, but that was great.
What a great and amazing video to see Ryan and Dorian talking about the importance of advocating for change for young people who are currently in foster care and who will be entering the foster care system. This is why we do this work. We don't do it for nothing to happen. We want change to happen. We want people to be able to have results and see the results. Because time and time again, young people are continually let down in the system, and that cannot be happening anymore. Not if we can help it. And that's why we're here, because we believe in the importance of speaking out, advocating for change, speaking your truth, speaking your pain, and living your truth. And we will continually advocate for that. So thank you so much to Dorian and Ryan for taking the time to explain to us the importance of why the Mockingbird Society is here and why we'll continue to stay here. So now I'm excited to see what questions will be asked during our Q&A session with Ryan and Dorian. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the YouTube live chat or text us at 833-330-0955. That's 833-330-0955. Thank you. And now I'm going to welcome Ryan and Dorian to join me and say a few words.
Hi, y'all. Ryan Tobiasen here. I use all respectable pronouns.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dorian Brockovich. I use he, him pronouns.
Awesome. Welcome, you two. Thank you so much for joining. So we're going to enter our Q&A session. And our first question here is from Angela. She asks, how did you become involved with this work? And why is this work important to you?
Well, when I was about 13 years old, I was in a crisis residential center. One of the youth came back to the program intoxicated, and at that time she was struggling with addiction due to her traumas. The head of the household had to discharge that youth because of policies, and that was something that didn't sit right with me. And so I sat there and I fought hard. I was like, no, addiction can be a trauma response. In this case, it is a trauma response. And like, I just kept going on and on and on. And I was like, she should be able to stay. And then later that night, I was told that I'd be great for Mockingbird. And I was like, okay, what's Mockingbird? And they told me they had free food. And I was like, all right, let's go. I'm a food person. So as soon as I got there, it was absolutely just amazing. Like, I remember walking in and it was just like wow, this is where I belong. This is my home, and these people are my family. Yeah, they're complete strangers, and I don't know anything about them. I don't even know their names, but I knew right then and there that there was no place I'd rather be. And I continue to do this every day because the youth are important to me. The next generation of youth are important to me. Every single person is important to me. Bettering this broken system is important to me.
My story isn't quite as moving as Ryan's here. So I'm pretty sure my foster parents just kind of wanted me out of the house for a couple hours every week. They told me about it, and I was like, all right, sounds fun, I guess. And it just had an effect on me. What kept me coming back, though, was the fact that something I worked on actually passed. Like I mentioned in the video, extended foster care was the topic at the time. And when I got the news that finally passed, that was the game changer for me. I directly benefited from that. Sorry. That was my defining moment, and it really made me stick with Mockingbird because it helped me show that what we do actually works, and it keeps me going.
Thank you, you two, for being open and honest and vulnerable about why you choose to do this work. Like, what's so important is to always give people who have experienced this type of system the platform to do it. And so I appreciate you both so much, man, for just being your authentic self and bringing your authentic self to the table. Thank you for keeping it real, man. Thank you for sharing your pain and for being honest about what you've gone through as well. And the importance of doing this work is about giving you that platform to do it. So thank you. And I wanted to kind of tag on to what Ryan and Dorian said about why they do this work. I do this work because of the impact that foster care had on me and my siblings. Every day is, for me, survival personally, if I'm being very honest. And I'm going to school for my education to be successful in life, but I'm also going to school to survive because the system doesn't always set you up for success. And plus, the trauma and the lasting impact of foster care is always with you. We need a lot more honest people to be able to sit with people in their pain when they say, hey, I went through this. Sure, I have a degree. Sure, my life is better than what it was, but that doesn't fix what I've gone through. And we need a space for people to be able to say that and say it as much as they want, man. Shout it from the rooftops, for crying out loud. And so that's why I do this work, to also open doors for honesty, for realisticness, for speaking your truth, for speaking up for yourself, speaking up for your pain, what you've been through, and saying enough is enough. Things don't always get better in terms of if you experience something hard in your life. So it's important to give that space where people feel comforted in knowing someone is acknowledging that. And so that's why I do this work, to open up doors for that realness too. And those are good questions, by the way. So thank you, Angela, for asking them. Our second question coming through our text line is from Sean, and he asks, can you tell us more about the advocacy cycle and how do you choose your policy topics?
Okay, I got the advocacy cycle. It is a year-long process in which we set different goals for the times of years that we like to achieve. So around April to probably July and August, we would sit there, we would figure out what topic we want to move forward with, or what problem in the system do we see, and is there a way to fix that? And then at Summit, which is where we present our topic or what we decided to try to change to, there's mayors there are people who are in charge of different types of organizations, there's legislative assistants there as well. And what they do is they give us a ton of feedback on how we can not only define our ask better, but also how we can move forward with our topic in a way that's more realistic. And then after summit, which happens around August, we take our topic and we refine it, we define it, and we make our ask, and then we present it at Youth Advocacy Day, which usually happens in February. And then after that, we repeat everything.
Sorry, just some technical difficulties. So a little bit more on how the chapters actually decide on their topic. It varies differently from chapter to chapter, but kind of the most basic breakdown of it is that, as a chapter, the youth identify a need or a barrier that comes up. So it usually starts off with like a brainstorm. People start spouting off ideas until we just have a bunch of ideas. So we start narrowing those down as more come to light. We decide which to focus on now, which is the most pressing and achievable. That's not to say that we pit traumas against each other, because we try not to do that. But it's whichever ones can gain the most traction, like right now. And what needs do we see? What needs do we see based on lived experience?
Yeah, I guess I have one more thing to add to that. It's like that's really important, specifically because we take the youth who come to our meetings and we're like, what needs to change about the system? It is about the youth's expertise. And quite frankly, we can't change anything without the youth. And so if they're not there telling us what's wrong, our work wouldn't be as important and as impactful as it is today.
Once again, thank you guys for keeping it real. I love that. The importance of owning your truth and speaking out for why you do it. And the reason why we have these advocacy cycles for this constant reminder to people, to society, like, hey, young people who've been in foster care matter too. We're not going to be generalized anymore. Our experiences are not going to be generalized anymore. Hear us loud and proud, man. We are ready to change this system, this dysfunctional system. So thank you to you both once again for keeping it real. I am loving this conversation. And the third question is from a Mockingbird supporter. Her name is Lori Lippold, and she asks if any of us are interested in running for office.
I mean, it would definitely be kind of a fun idea to play with. The idea, though, of actually, running for office, it's a little daunting. I'm not going to lie. But, as long as I had the support that I needed, it could be fun. I mean, I guess it's not really about being fun, though. It's, I don't know. I am kind of drawing a blank. But to answer the question, it would be interesting for sure.
I mean, that's definitely not something that I'm most passionate about. I'm definitely more passionate about opening my own nonprofit. But I definitely believe that I would be somebody who's good for that. I don't know, like I'm open to it, like I'm open to the idea, but I don't think I would ever intentionally choose that unless the opportunity just kind of like arose and was like, Ryan, this is your calling. Yeah.
If I would be interested in running for office if they have room for an empathy advocacy worker, because I would love to do that, man. Again, trauma is trauma, pain is pain, not generalizing it. I'm saying this empathetically, man. When people are going through something, they need to be heard and they need someone to sit with them in their pain. And so I'm going to be that person. So y'all let me know if y'all find an office position, running for office position that has that detailed, I will definitely apply for it. Okay, our next question is from Francis, and they would like to know, would you like to know what are you thinking about advocating for next? Or what do you want to see changed?
Well, it's not really about what I'm thinking about advocating for next. It's about what the youth are thinking about. And currently we don't know that because we are in the middle of our topic. However, if I did have a choice on something that we advocated for next, I would probably go for something more along the lines of like housing stability for single mothers. It's really hard to get into programs like that, or maybe even just removing barriers into getting resources. There's a lot of requirements for resources. Like, it's crazy. Like, one of the homes that I tried going into when I was first pregnant with my son, I had to make $3,000 a month to go into a homeless shelter for pregnant teen mothers. $3,000 in Spokane, by the way, where the minimum wage is less than $14. So it's like, it doesn't make sense for me to have to make that much to access a program that's supposed to help people who don't make that much, you know? So maybe something along the lines of removing those barriers for being able to access those resources.
So kind of like what Ryan was saying, I don't have any specific ideas on what I want to advocate for next because I'm not with my chapter at the moment. And that's always just been a really hard question for me to answer anyways, because of the fact that I do rely on my chapter to sort of find these barriers to overcome. I'll help them push over the barrier, but I can't see them myself, unfortunately. Unfortunately.
Thank you guys so much for once again taking the time to answer these questions, but authentically, most importantly, and the importance of having this community and being able to have these events, these important events are what make Mockingbird what it is. So thank you once again to you both. And our very last question is, what impact has this work had on you personally or your colleagues?
That's definitely like, even though I'm like super passionate and like I know exactly what the impact is, it's hard to put it into words. I mean, honestly, I never really thought that I'd like make it this far in life. If I'm being brutally honest, it was I had a super traumatic childhood. And so to be part of an organization that creates policy changes it's crazy. It's really crazy, especially as a youth. I was 14, 15 years old when we were going for IDs with ease. And so being part of that change was just so empowering. It made me feel like I was worth something when my whole life I didn't feel like I was worth anything. And Mockingbird kind of gave me a second chance at life. Like, they helped me find my purpose. I definitely didn't know that I would ever be interested in a nonprofit organization ever. That's usually like not the thing people think about, because it is hard work. It's grueling and it is painstaking, but the rewards after are just, oh my goodness, it makes all of that so worth it. And I don't know, I definitely would not be where I am today without Mockingbird.
So this work has definitely impacted me in such a way that it's helped me realize that not everybody else has it as good as I got to. I walked away from foster care being able to say I had at least a semi-positive experience. It's showed me that not everybody else had that privilege. It's expanded my views. I've made it my personal goal to make sure that youth can walk away with that same experience. I want somebody else to be able to say, yeah, foster care didn't mess me up. That's like my ultimate goal there.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Just a huge thank you to you both. This is so gratifying for me too, to hear you both speak. So thank you a lot. I appreciate it. And actually, we have one more last question. And it's from Pam, and she asks, in your opinion, What do young people need to succeed?
I'm actually going to jump in on this one. So young people, all they really need to succeed is support. They need somebody to believe that they can do what needs to be done. Like Ryan said in our video there, like if you continue to set youth up for failure, that's all they're going to do. But the minute you start giving them tools to put their life into a positive direction, that's where they're going to go. And I feel like that is the most important thing that you can give a youth is support.
I also want to piggyback kind of on the support part, specifically because without support, half the people in the world wouldn't be where they are today. Like they wouldn't have houses, they wouldn't have children, they wouldn't have anything like that. So it's just like, I don't know, without support, not everybody can do everything by themselves. You have to be extremely self-motivated, which is a skill that you have to learn eventually. But as a youth growing up, support is definitely super important. But I also want to reiterate on the fact that having faith in these young people, giving grace to these young people. It's already difficult enough when you're ripped away from your family and tossed home to home to home like a package. And you don't feel like you mean anything. So why should you care about what you do with your life? And so it's just like you continue to make these mistakes because, oh, I can do this because it doesn't matter. I'm not going to go anywhere fancy in life anyway. It's like, I'm not going to be the big one sitting at the Oval Office eating a lobster dinner. Like that's just what goes through your mind. As people treat you like a package, you're going to feel like a package. And so if somebody believes that you can do it, it's a lot easier to believe you can do it yourself. If somebody allows you to feel your pain and gives you grace as you heal, it gives you the opportunity to heal, to do better, to be better than what people expect you to be.
Ooh, these are tearjerker responses. Thank you both so much. You guys are incredible. Your vulnerability is beautiful. Your willingness to be here in this moment is amazing. So thank you again. And I can't thank you both enough. And you guys, that is, we're out of time for any more questions this evening. And we are so sorry about that because if we weren't able to answer your question, we'll be following up with you in the days to come. So thank you in advance for your patience and for your understanding when it comes to getting all the questions together. Now, before we close out the program, I'd like to pass it over to Ryan to say a few words.
Of course. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. And thank you, Esther, for hosting the third episode of the speaker series. It truly does take all of us. I'm also super thankful to have the opportunity to tell y'all a little bit about my story tonight. I hope this leaves you feeling inspired and ready to tackle any challenge life throws your way. Around the time when I was about 13 years old, CPS was called and I was placed into foster care. I went through 3 different homes in a matter of a month. And because my voice was silenced in my childhood, I never really felt like I could tell anybody about the extent of my abuse, and I continued to act out. I eventually made it into a crisis residential center where I learned the power of advocacy. While living there, I remember this one time, another young person came back to the house intoxicated. Due to the policy, the head staff was going to discharge her from the program. I told the staff that she was struggling with addiction due to her trauma, and I fought for her to stay. This was the very first time I really spoke out about something that I believed in. Unfortunately, as brave as I was, policy prevented her from staying. And despite the fact that I lost that battle, I felt empowered, yet absolutely terrified of this new strength that I never knew I had. The head staff then pulled me aside later that night and told me that I'd be great for Mockingbird. And I was like, what's Mockingbird? But they really couldn't tell me much other than there was free food. And as we all know, I'm a foodie. And so free food was all I needed to hear in order to take that leap of faith. I remember walking in and instantly feeling like this is where I belonged. I had put on a mask to please others and protect myself my whole life. And yet, here I was feeling safe enough to take that mask and throw it away forever. After my very first meeting, I knew that Mockingbird is where I belonged. I never even imagined that I would live longer than 16 years old. Yet here I am in college, a mother, and a full-time employee of the Mockingbird Society starting on the 16th. All of this would not be possible without the Mockingbird Society. Once I learned what my voice was, Mockingbird taught me how to use my voice to better the broken system that many people are affected by. I have helped create policy change, and I never thought I could be capable of such greatness. As I learned and grew, Mockingbird recognized the value to my voice, as well as many others. They paid me for my voice, and I became an expert. Now, as an employee, I can give future Mockingbirds those skills that were given to me. Mockingbird thrives due to donations, which is why it is so important for you all in the community to support Mockingbird, even if you are not directly impacted by the system now. As I said before in my conversation with Dorian, the next kid that faces the system head on could be your grandchild, your niece or nephew, your best friend's family. As the founder of Mockingbird, Jim Theophilus says, it's for the 5-year-old that doesn't know they'll be in care tomorrow. Help us help them. It takes a village to raise a child. And when they lose their village, they are forced into this broken system. Mockingbird can make sure the system supports young people and gives them just as many opportunities as the other youth who don't face these traumas. Tonight, we have an exciting opportunity, super exciting. Thanks to the generous support of the Schultz Family Foundation, all gifts of $250 or more will be matched dollar for dollar. Your $250 donation becomes $500. Your $1,000 donation becomes $2,000, and so on until the matching pool is exhausted. All right, so here's how you make a gift. The first way is super easy. If you're on a computer, just go to our website and click the donate button. You can then follow the steps through there. To give by phone, you just grab your phone out and text GIVE to 833-330-0955. After you text GIVE to 833-330-0955, you'll receive a link that directs you to the Speaker Series donation page. I'm here tonight to ask you to join us in this work because together we can fix the system. Let's make sure all youth have the support they need in order to have a successful and fulfilling life that they deserve. Thank you all for your valuable time.
A huge thank you to you, Ryan, and you as well, Dorian, for your undivided attention. Well, our undivided attention, but thank you to you both for taking the time out of your day today to be honest with us about the system and the importance of change and the importance of innovation. You guys are incredible, and I appreciate you both so much for doing this work. This work does take all of us, and you guys are an important, impactful part of this work. So thank you guys once again for being vulnerable, speaking your truth, and talking about the importance of why change is necessary for the system. And so as we are closing out tonight, this is a little bit in terms of ending. This is it for us tonight. We're so sorry that we have to end it this evening, because I want to thank each and every one of you who joined us for our speaker series. It takes all of us. Live your truth and your pain and trauma, and don't allow society to tell you otherwise. I'm sitting with you in your pain now and always, and because you and your experiences matter. Each of us has a role to play to ensure that young people and families have what they need to succeed. We couldn't do this work without your support. And thank you for joining us in the work to transform foster care and end youth homelessness. Have a good evening. Once again, we do apologize that we have to end our program, but we appreciate you all. Please reach out to us on our social media platforms. We have a platform on Facebook, Instagram, the Mockingbird Society, and we will love to hear from you. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us tonight. We appreciate you all. Take care. Bye-bye.